I think it's 6:29 and counting.
Almost 6:30.
It's 6:30. It's 6:30. I'm calling the Wareham Conservation Commission meeting of January 20th, 2021 to order at 6:30 p.m. We have Ron, Carol, Alyssa, Mary, Sandy, Mike, and Kwame. They got everybody? I guess so.
I think so, yes.
If I didn't call your name, tell me. Sorry, that would, never mind. Okay, so if I didn't call your name, you're missing, so you can't tell me. All right, let's go with our public hearings, please.
All right.
Oh, before we start, we are continuing the Borrego Solar System, the Penrose property, which is Littleton Drive, and Tom Parento. In case anybody's here for those, we will be continuing them until, what's our next meeting? February?
Well, some of them have requested different continuance dates.
Okay,
So we'll
but
have
at least February, anyway, what's our next meeting date?
February 3rd.
3rd, thank you. So if you're here for those, we're not going to be taking any testimony or questions on those 3 properties, but we have 9 public hearings to start with. So Alyssa, please start.
Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held on Wednesday, January 20th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. on the request for determination of applicability for Charlene Post, P.O. Box 1702, Onset, Massachusetts 02558, to install a pea-stone parking area and other landscaping activities located on Assessor's Map 2, Lot 256, 11 Acorn Avenue, Wareham, Massachusetts.
Thank you. And I did see Charlene, but please, if you're here to to support this project or talk to this project, please identify yourself, unmute yourself and identify yourself. I know I saw her.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Me.
Mr. Burchett will speak to the project, and we'll ask you if you have any comments on it. So Dave, it's your turn.
Okay, this project site is at 11 Acorn Avenue in Onset, and this project involves the placement of a pea-stone parking area and some other landscape features on this property in the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland. And it's also in a coastal flood zone. So there's the interest to put in a pebble stone parking area, basically in the same vicinity of where cars typically park now, but it's just dirt at the moment. And there's also the request to regrade the existing lawn and reseed it. And the limit of work is going to be limited to the existing yard as it currently is. And there's also the interest to put in some planters along the edge of the deck, as you can see on the plan. So that's kind of the extent of what's being requested. But again, it is in the buffer zone to wetlands. There's a ditch that runs along the back of the property, sort of in this vicinity right here, that heads out towards Broad Cove. And so that's the feature that you have at this site. So that's essentially the project. It's relatively minor in my opinion, so I would recommend the approval of the project with a negative determination number 2.
Thank you. Charlene, anything to add?
I don't think so. Thank you, Dave, for describing it. I don't think so. I know that Dave asked me to do a natural gravel base instead of a reprocessed asphalt, which is what originally my landscaper wanted to do. So I rewrote it to say natural gravel base, and I did mention that to my landscaper, who said that, they can do it that way. And is there a limit like on how deep I have to go, like deep I can go, or I'm supposed to go with the, I know they dig down and they put sort of layers of, the gravel. Is there a limit as to how deep I'm supposed to go, Dave?
Well, I don't think it needs to be very deep for what you're looking to do, and I think the landscaper will have a good sense. I wouldn't envision that it would go down any more than 6 to 8 inches, you know?
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I'll just let him do his thing. Okay.
Okay, I'll ask the board if they have any questions. Ron?
Yeah, just one quick question. Dave, you said was this just in a flood zone, or was this would this include flood zone or no?
Yes, it is in a flood zone, yes.
So what's the likelihood of like a washout potentially happening if what kind of weather would we have to see for that to happen?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of this area, you wouldn't see this get inundated with water unless we had like a hurricane or something, you know? It's not a thing that would flood on a high tide or anything like that,
Yeah, that's mine.
if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, I'm just curious as if it's if it would take a serious storm to kind of wash that out, and the erosion factors.
Definitely a serious storm, and that's why, but that still could occur, and that's why I asked not to have the reprocessed asphalt and just to have a natural gravel. So even if that were to occur, you just have natural gravel.
It's just natural
shifted
stone.
around.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's it. That was just the washout factor was just a question, but with the natural stone, I guess even if it did happen, it wouldn't be like it's anything potentially harmful to the environment.
Right.
It will just make a mess. Carol, questions? Carol?
No questions.
Alyssa?
I only have a question is, was this staked out?
Yes,
Okay. Just 'cause
I did visit the
didn't miss
site.
that one.
I
What?
did visit the site, and the scope of the gravel area was identified using lights,
Okay,
landscaping lights, and a stake that had been pushed down in the ground so no one tripped on it.
Yeah, the stake is in like the left hand, like looking at the picture
Yeah.
now. Left hand.
Alan, the cat's eating the food.
okay, just question.
Okay. Is that it? Mary,
No questions.
Michael,
No questions. I'm good. Thanks.
Kwame,
No questions, thank you.
I have none. Is there anybody on the call that would like to speak for or against this project? Hearing none,
Motion to close the hearing.
I have a motion to close the hearing,
Second.
and I have a second. All in favor, Ron,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Alyssa,
Yes,
Mary,
Yes.
Sandy. Yes, the hearing is closed.
I move to accept the project with the standard order of conditions.
Nope, it's not a notice of intent. It's.
Oh, this is an RDA.
No, it's an RDA, so Dave has recommended -2.
I move to accept the project with a negative determination 2.
Second.
Good enough. And I heard a second. All in favor, Ron,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Alyssa,
yes.
Mary.
Yes.
Sandy. Yes. So Charlene, you're approved. Nothing is to be, sorry, nothing is to be done until your builder works with Dave Pichette for the paperwork.
Oh, okay. So
Okay,
I should have him, the landscaper call Dave?
yes, please. Right, Dave?
Yes, there'll be a formal document that is sent to you explaining the decision of this meeting tonight, and that's your approval for the work, and that's what you need to have before he actually starts.
Okay, and then, so I get that paperwork and then he calls you.
Right.
Okay, and then, is that a big complicated thing, him working with you with paperwork, or it's just a piece of paper?
No, that's just the standard process.
Okay. Okay. I just want to know, in case he charges me for the time, I want to know what's reasonable. Thank you.
No problem.
I have a notice of public hearing. Are you ready, Sandy?
Yes, so is my cat.
Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protected Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held on Wednesday, January 20th at 6:30 PM on the request for determination of applicability for Thomas and Barbara Morse, 1 McKinley Street, Wareham, Massachusetts, 02571, to reconstruct a deck located on Assessors Map 53, Lot B1, McKinley Street, Wareham, Massachusetts.
Thank you. Who's here to speak for this project?
I'm here, Barbara Morse. We own the property, Sandy.
Thank you. Mr. Bichette, your turn.
Okay, this project site is at 1 McKinley Street in the Briarwood area. And the project involves the reconstruction of an existing deck in the buffer zone to a coastal bank and within a coastal flood zone and within the riverfront area of Beaver Dam Creek. So there's an existing deck, which is 11 by 28, and it's proposed to be reconstructed, but also reduced slightly to be 11 by 20, but in the same footprint. The existing deck is basically right at the edge of the coastal bank, but it is a feature that has been there. And as I said, they're simply looking to replace it in the same general area, but actually making it slightly smaller. So there would be new footings that would be needed to be put in place for this, which would be sonotube footings. And there should be some silt fence put in around where the work is being done during construction at the site. But I would recommend approval of the project with a negative determination number 2.
Thank you. Barbara, anything to add?
Thank you, Sandy. Thanks, David. Just a couple things. The deck is 11.6 by 28 currently. We're going to 11.6 by 20, eliminating the stairs and making it smaller. We have 2 means of egress without these stairs. And the dumpster will be on our paved driveway. There won't be anything back behind there. They're going to move the items around the house to get into the dumpster. No Kubota. It'll be hand dug and hand done. And the deck as is, I know Sandy, you came out, is just not safe underneath. The supports are not safe. It's an old deck. So we're going back with, like Dave said, sonotubes, pressure treated under. The top will be AZAC, which is a composite like a Trex, and a cable rail, which will be much lighter. And so it'll be a lot lighter than what is currently there.
Thank you. I did have to admit, one of the support beams on the deck was placed on a rock. That was quite impressive, that it still is up there. Okay, I'm going to ask questions from the board. Ron, any questions?
No, she answered them with everything she told us about it, so I'm good.
Carol,
Nope, I'm all good.
Alyssa,
No?
Mary,
No question.
Mike,
Pretty basic, thank you.
Kwame,
No questions, thank you.
and I have none. Is there anybody on the meeting that would like to speak for this project, for or against? Hearing none,
Motion to close the hearing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to close the hearing. The roll call. Ron,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Elissa,
Yes.
Mary.
Yes.
Sandy, yes, the hearing is closed.
I motion to accept the project with a negative determination 2.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor. Ron,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Alyssa,
Yes.
Mary.
Yes.
Sandy, yes, we're done. Barbara, check with Mr. Bichette about when you can start the project.
Will do. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Nice
Be
job.
safe.
All of us. Good luck with your new kitty cat.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carol.
Hello. Could I speak to Mr. Bichette?
And who are you?
James Lavelle.
And are you speaking for the project we just closed?
Excuse me?
We're not ready to discuss the matter that you're here for yet. Okay, that's going to be
Okay.
taken up later in the meeting.
Okay, all right,
All right.
all right.
Oh, so Dave, you know what he wants to talk about?
Yes, he's here for one of the enforcement orders.
Oh, okay. So we're now to the next hearing, please.
We have a notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protected Bylaw, Division 6. Public hearing will be held on Wednesday, January 20th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. on the request for determination of applicability for William Mutos, care of Innovation Construction Company, P.O. Box 815, West Wareham, Mass. 02576. To remove and replace an existing deck located on Assessor's Map 78-1, Lot 161, 73 Barlow Ave, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. Is there anybody here that is representing this project?
I am here and I'm Bill Mudis and my contractor Keith is on as well.
Thank you. Mr. Bichette will describe the project.
So yes, this project site is at 73 Barlow Ave, which is in the Rose Point area. And the project involves the reconstruction of an existing deck in the buffer zone to a salt marsh within a coastal flood zone and within the riverfront area of the Wewianick River. So there's an existing 12 by 23 foot deck with stairs that needs to be reconstructed. And so that's the nature of the project. That will be torn apart or taken down and then a new deck built in the same exact footprint. And so that will also require new footings to be installed to support that new deck. So there's no grade changes proposed as part of the project and the footprint's going to remain just as it currently is. So I have no problems with the project and would recommend the approval of it with a negative determination number 2.
Bill or Keith, anything to add?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
I apologize. I'm not up to speed with these things.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure I could participate. I have nothing to add. Sorry.
Hey, Bill, is there anything you wanted to add?
I'm all zoomed out right now, so I have nothing to add at this moment either. Thank you.
Okay. Questions on the board? Ron?
No questions.
Thought you would turn it off. Carol?
No, no questions.
Elissa?
Nope.
Mary?
Question.
Mike?
Good, how you doing?
Question.
What's that with that half class?
Somebody
know if I
needs to mute themselves.
Not
Cindy
sure if you had-
Rhodes?
I'm not sure if the house directed to me, Sandy, but no questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Kwame?
No questions. Thank you.
Excuse me, Cindy Rhodes, you're talking. Please mute yourself. Cindy Rose, please mute yourself. Thank you. My only question is, will all the work be done manually or will there be equipment on the land?
Manually,
And all the debris will be removed?
absolutely.
Those were, and as I was driving down the dirt roads, I said, I've been to this place before. It certainly looked familiar when I drove up.
Yes, we did have an issue there previously, but yeah, so this time they're handling it accordingly. And so here we are.
I do thank you for that. And the retaining wall looks very nice. Okay, is there anybody online that would like to speak for or against this project? Hearing none.
Motion to close the hearing.
I have a motion to close.
Second,
I have a second. All in favor, Ron,
Yes.
Carol,
yes.
Elissa,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Sandy. Yes, the hearing is closed.
I make a motion to accept the project with a negative determination 2.
Second,
And I heard a motion and a second. All in favor, Ron,
Yes.
Carol,
yes.
Elissa,
Yes.
Mary.
Yes.
Sandy, it's approved. So Bill and Keith, no work until you get your paperwork from Mr. Bichette and let him know when you're starting.
Thank you all very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okey dokey.
Notice of Public hearing. Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protected Bylaw, Division 6, Public hearing will be held on Wednesday, January 20th, 2021 at 6:30 PM on the notice of intent for the Town of Wareham Municipal Maintenance Department, care of Horsley Witten Group on 90 Route 6A, Sandwich, Mass. 02563, to install stormwater treatment structures located on Assessor's Map 47, Lot 1127, 0 Main Street, Bessie Park, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. Is there anybody here representing the town of Wareham for this project?
Hi, good evening. Amy Ball from Horsley Witten Group. I have a few of my colleagues on as well. I don't know if you guys want to introduce yourselves.
I'm Michelle West. I've been the project manager for Horsley Witten Group on the project.
Okay. Mr. Bichette, I believe it's your turn.
Okay, so the project site is at Bessie Park, and the project involves the installation of stormwater treatment structures at this site in the buffer zone to a coastal bank and also within a coastal flood zone. In collaboration with the Buzzards Bay National Estuaries Program, the town is proposing to do a stormwater remediation project that will improve the treatment of stormwater coming out of the 2 existing outfall pipes at Bessie Park. A new stormwater treatment system has been designed, which will involve the construction of stormwater bioretention basins, an oil grit separator, new manhole structures, and associated connection pipes. This work would be within 5 feet of the top of the coastal bank, which is the top of the bulkhead at the site. The project is also within flood zone AE elevation 16 and in the riverfront area of the Wareham River. The parking lot would essentially be shifted back 6 to 8 feet to make room for a bioretention structure that would be placed between the newly relocated parking lot and the existing sidewalk that's at the top of the bulkhead. 2 other bioretention areas would be constructed within the existing lawn areas at the site. And these areas would take stormwater runoff to a point and then overflow into standpipes that would eventually tie back into the existing outfall. The bioretention areas would be vegetated with native plant species. Some features such as benches and light posts would need to be relocated to accommodate the new structures. Currently, the situation is that untreated stormwater is being discharged from these 2 existing outfalls into the river. The outfalls take stormwater from Bessie Park as well as from surrounding streets. The goal is to improve the treatment of stormwater in this area, which would improve water quality within the river and Buzzards Bay. So I just did have a couple of questions in terms of what measures would be put in place to ensure that sediments don't flow out into the river during the construction process, either directly from the site or through the existing outfall pipes. We did get a DEP file number for the project. One other issue was that when we did the site visit, some of the features were not staked out at the site as is requested by the commission. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but we did get a DEP file number for the project as well. So that's where things stand, and I'll let the consultant speak to this further if they wish.
Amy, Michelle, which one would you like to add
Thank you.
anything?
So Michelle did most of the design on this, and she's our stormwater engineer, so I'll let her answer some of the detailed questions regarding the design.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for that introduction, Dave. The ESC, the erosion control measures that you were asking about, there'll be a silt sock that's placed all along the down gradient edge of the limit of work, as well as a construction fence to keep equipment and activity within a very defined area. We'll be placing tree protection fences around the trees at the site to protect them as well, and their root systems to the maximum extent practical. And we'll be placing silt sacks in the catch basins that are along the street to prevent sediment from getting into the existing outfalls.
Very good.
In terms of the actual practices, I didn't know if anyone had any questions about how they worked or any concerns about how they would look. I have some pictures I could show and that sort of thing, but I also don't need to waste people's time if that's not needed.
Okay. Well, we'll go around. Ron, any questions?
No questions.
Carol,
No questions.
Elissa,
No, it was really good yesterday, seeing it and talking with you on it.
Mary,
No questions. They were answered yesterday.
Mike,
Questions, thank you.
Kwame,
No questions. I look forward to seeing when the project's finished.
yes. My questions is that has the area been staked out yet?
I am not aware if the DPW has staked out the site, but I can check on that.
At the meeting, we had an on-site meeting with several of us, and I did mention that really has to be approved by the Wareham Historic District. And I was thinking about it last night. You also have to have it approved by the Bessie family. There are some restrictions placed on the use of that Bessie Park and what can and cannot be done on it. Were you aware of that?
I was not, but perhaps others at the town were, and so I'll talk to the DPW about making sure that the family is contacted.
Okay, thank you. I just, that somehow behind the scenes, not everybody is aware of some of the restrictions that have been placed on this property. Is there anybody on the line that would like to speak for or against or questions on this project? Dave, was there somebody you wanted to talk on this? No.
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay. I am going to ask for a continuance. The project was not staked, so we as a commission could not actually visualize where these retention areas would go. Unless the commission feels is not fair.
I mean, I would agree with you, and that would also give time for the town to, ask the questions of the family as far as what can be and can't be done, so that maybe by the time we come back in 2 weeks, they would have the appropriate answers.
One thing I didn't notice that all the area I really wanted all the area that's being disturbed to be regrassed. Not just what has been, disturbed, but everything. There's a plan that talked about where it's going to be replanted. Just so so everybody's got the same grass configuration all around these retention areas, even so some of the land they may not be disturbed. I just want to add that to the note, just to be a consistent grass feature. Okay, we went around. Anybody else want to comment whether or not to continue this, waiting for the area to be staked out?
I think even more important is waiting for the letters to come from the Bessie family and also any other person, the historical commission. That's what I think we're waiting on. Even more, I mean, yesterday we were there for about 45 minutes just talking about it.
Now, it would
be nice.
Historic District Commission has its own. It would not influence our ability to approve or disapprove this project based on our bylaws. And the use of the park land is a town issue with the Bessie family, not conservation.
Okay.
We don't have to wait for those two approvals to occur to approve the project. Anybody else wants to continue or not continue this hearing? Any other comments?
I'd just like to make one more comment for consideration, not to excuse the lack of staking at the site, but this is a grant-funded project and we need to have everything wrapped up by the end of February. So it is a little tight. So I just wanted to let everybody know that part of the project.
You're going to have a lot of work for the Historic District Commission. You got to work on that as soon as possible.
When
Okay.
when you say wrapped up, are you referring to permitting wrapped up?
For the stormwater design, 100% wrapped up.
Yeah, okay,
So not just permitting.
right.
All right. I'll take a motion to continue until February 3rd, pending staking of the site.
So
Motion to
moved.
continue.
I have a motion to continue.
Second,
I have a second. All in favor, Ron,
Yes.
Carol,
yes.
Alyssa,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Sandy, yes. Excuse me. Cat, get out of the food. Ah, sorry. Kitty wants his share of the dinner. So we're continued until February 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have another notice of public hearing if we're ready.
Yes,
Okay. Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6, a public hearing will be held on Wednesday, January 20th, 2021 at 6:30 PM on the notice of intent for Matthew and Cindy Rhodes, care of JC Engineering, Inc., 2854 Cranberry Highway, East Wareham, Mass. 02538. To construct a single-family dwelling and garage located on Assessor's Map 22, Lot 1006A1, 72A, Burgess Point Road, Wareham, Mass.
thank you. Is there anybody here to speak for this project?
Yes, Brian Wallace with JT Engineering.
Thank you. Mr. Bichette, it's your turn.
Okay, so the site is at 72A Burgess Point Road, and the project involves the construction of a single-family dwelling in the buffer zone to a coastal bank and flood zone AE elevation 16 and VE elevation 18. A 32 by 74-foot dwelling with attached 30 by 30-foot garage is proposed within flood zone AE elevation 16. Site clearing would be done in the buffer zone of the coastal bank up to the 30-foot no activity zone line as shown on the plan. There is an existing path on the site that goes to the pier that would remain in place. Hay bales and silt fence would be installed along the 30-foot no activity zone, which would be the limit of work towards the coastal bank. Significant grade changes are also proposed. Approximately 2 to 5 feet of fill would be placed in the building envelope. A boulder retaining wall is proposed to contain the fill as shown on the plan. And I did have a question about what the volume of fill will be needed to be brought to the site to accomplish those grade changes. A gravel roadway is proposed along the side of the property to tie into that existing path. So I was curious what the need for that is. If it's just to get sort of down there from the yard, my only concern is for trucks and whatnot driving right up to the edge of the coastal bank, which I don't think would be something that we would want to see. And I also did have a question about how will the cleared land between the house and the water be left? Is it meant to be just the whole thing to be lawn area? All of the work, with the exception of the tree clearing, would be outside the buffer zone of the coastal bank. So the house and the septic and everything are actually outside the buffer zone of the coastal bank. The work within the buffer zone is, again, the clearing activity of the trees and whatnot. Hay bales and silt fence, again, would be placed between the work and the coastal bank. We did receive a DEP file number for the project. Overall, I don't have a problem with the project and would recommend approval, but I just want to hear some answers to the questions that have been brought up.
Hey, Brian.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. I do have answers to all of your questions. First, that gravel access road that connects from the main driveway to the existing path the dock is there for, in the event that any maintenance is needed on the dock. and they wanted to just be able to have access to be able to, go around the stone wall and have access to the backyard area. And in terms of the volume of fill, we're looking at approximately 2,400 cubic yards needed. And the purpose of bringing that fill into the site is to elevate the dwelling and the surrounding land out of the flood zone. So that's the reason for that. And the last question was about the lawn area between the stone wall and the 30-foot offset. And they're looking to clear that land, and I would assume, loam and seed it. And in my discussions, they also expressed saving as many trees as they could in that area. On the site in particular, there's a lot of tall pines that, once a good portion of the land is cleared, could become a hazard. So while there's no trees being preserved shown on the site plan, it's possible some existing trees might be left in that area, but otherwise it would become lawn. And one other thing I would like to just point out is that there was an order of conditions issued back in September 2018 on this property as well for a very similar configured building and project. That project that was approved actually required a little bit more fill, but generally this is it's a pretty similar project. So I believe that answers all your questions.
Dave, if there's an existing order of conditions, does it pertain to this, or does it has to be closed out?
Well, it ultimately would have to be closed out, but it shouldn't affect what's being proposed at this point here. Because
Okay.
they're proposing a different project. So that other one would just become something that could be requested to be closed out as a order that was not utilized, and they just want to close it out.
Okay. Questions from the board? Ron?
Yeah, just so you said that the proposal is 2,400 cubic yards of loam. How much actual square footage is that encompassing to raise the property?
So the total square footage, I didn't quite have that number. Hang on one second here. I can sort of rough it.
Yeah, the area to be filled is essentially everything within this stone wall right here.
So you're raised, so the entire project is proposed to be raised, not just a specific section of the project?
Pretty much everything within, like I said, within that stone wall that you see encompassing
Okay.
the building site is where the bulk of the fill will go, yes.
Okay, so and you said the idea of bringing in all that fill is just to try to raise the building out of the flood zone?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay, that's no other questions.
Carol?
No questions.
Elissa?
No. Thank you.
Mary?
No question.
Michael?
Thank you.
Kwame?
No questions, thank you.
Yes. I have none. Anybody the meeting that wants to speak for or against this project? I'm hearing none.
Motion to close the hearing.
I have a
Second.
motion to close. I have a second. The hearing is closed. Ron?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Elissa?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Sandy? Yes, hearing is closed.
I move to accept the project with the standard order of conditions.
And I would also just want the commission to consider limiting vehicle access down to the coastal bank. I understand the need to maybe want to get a vehicle to the backyard area, but having vehicles drive right up to the edge of that coastal bank could cause potential erosion problems from rutting and whatnot.
I think
I-
that, would you want David to have a fencing there across it at the proper distance? And that way, if they absolutely had to do some work on the dock or whatever, that would be, they could open the fence, but the fence would be closed. Or do you want some rocks there like we've done before? What do you want?
Well, there's going to be a tree line there with just a path opening going to the dock. So, I guess that's a tricky question. It could be, I wouldn't want to see boulders per se, because then if someone wanted to go there, it'd be a big process to try to move that,
Mhm.
So if there were some sort of a fence or a gate, then maybe something like that. Again, I'm just more concerned with, vehicles going right to the edge and potentially causing erosion there. So if the commission wants to condition something of a gate or something of that nature, then that's what I would recommend.
But the only people who would be using that would be the homeowners.
Right.
So
Well,
we could very well stipulate that there would be no motorized vehicles beyond the tree line?
well, again, there might be a need to get down to a point, but I guess my concern is just general use to come and go from there, or from
Right.
visitors to come and go from there. Just because
Okay.
it's more convenient to haul stuff by a truck down to the dock than to maybe use a cart or something,
All right, then we limit the motor vehicles access beyond the tree line to only necessary to do maintenance on the dock.
Well,
Sure.
also to clean up the beach that needs to be really cleaned up too. A lot of trash there too, which I had forgotten about.
Well, they don't need a motorized vehicle to do that. They can put it in a cart.
Well, no, they have a whole big float there on the beach. That's
Well,
probably,
that may have to be broken up and taken out, they're not going to be able to drag it up the coastal bank or anything. So
No.
that's going to be something they'd probably have to hand carry up in chunks.
should that be in this motion?
If the board wishes to include that, then sure.
So no motorized vehicles beyond tree line except for maintenance of the dock. The existing float must be removed manually in pieces, dismantled and removed in
There
pieces.
you go.
Is that it?
That's it.
That's it.
I'm still writing.
Faster, Sandy, faster.
So what I'm hearing is this standard order of conditions with hay bales and silk fence, no motorized vehicles beyond the tree line except for maintenance, servicing the dock, and the abandoned dock to be demolished and removed in pieces manually. Did I
Yes.
cover it?
Yes.
So that's the motion.
Second,
I have a second. All in favor, Ron,
Yes.
Carol,
yes.
Elissa,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Sandy. Yes. Okay, Brian, you got it. Don't do anything until you talk to Mr. Bichette on it, okay?
Okay, will do. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Sandy, I'm going to read this one and then I'm going to have to go offline and try to get back online. Notice
Okay.
of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held on Wednesday, January 20th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. on the notice of intent from Virginia Marshall, care of GAF Engineering, Inc., 266 Main Street, Wareham, Massachusetts, 02571. To construct an addition and deck located on Assessor's Map 11, Lot 48 to 52, 41 Ellis Avenue, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. Is there anybody here to speak for this project? Okay,
I believe,
Virginia
somebody is,
Marshall is here.
yeah.
I thought someone from GAF was also going to be here. Brian from GAF.
I think he was just here. I think he may have been disconnected. Because he was
Yeah,
just.
I did see him on the line earlier.
Terrific.
Well, we
Hey,
can still proceed.
Yeah, Virginia, wait a second. We've got a process. Mr. Bichette will speak to the project first.
Okay.
So this project site is at 41 Ellis Ave in Onset, and the project involves the construction of an addition and deck to the existing dwelling in the buffer zone to a coastal bank. A 16 by 16 foot addition with an attached 16 by 24 foot deck is proposed, approximately 80 feet from the top of the coastal bank. The site is fairly flat and there are no grade changes proposed. The addition would be on a poured concrete foundation and the deck would be supported on sonotube footings. Hay bales and silt fence would be installed between the work and the resource area. We do have a DEP number for the project, so I would say that, this site also was not staked as far as where the addition was going to go. I generally had no problem with the project, so I'll leave it up to the commission as to how you want to handle it.
Did I see Brian come back in?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry about that.
Okay, Brian, did you catch Mr. Bichette's reading?
Yes, I did. Got everything Dave said. He's right. The site is very flat, and the nearest activity, the addition's approximately 80 feet to the coastal bank, and some of the activities just occurring where there is an existing deck already, and there'll be a deck added to the back, a second-story deck added to the back. So activities are pretty minimal. Footings for the deck, small foundation for the structure. I apologize for not having it staked. I guess our thought was it's an existing dwelling. It's easily identifiable, and the nearest resource area is approximately 80 feet away. So we thought it was just maybe pretty straightforward, which is why we didn't get that done for you.
But we are putting on an addition, right?
Yes.
Correct. 16 by 16 addition to the home. And the existing deck that's there is being removed. That's where the addition will sit. And they're replacing the deck that's being removed with a new deck in lieu of the addition, which will be for expanding the kitchen.
Okay. Questions from the board? Ron?
I mean, more of a comment than a question. I mean, I think that, we talked about in the last meeting, requesting to have the project staked out. I mean, we continued a project earlier in the meeting for not having the stakes done. So that would be my only comment is, potentially talk about a continuation to have the project staked out so it can be viewed if the commission so chooses to want to go and look at it.
Hey, Carol?
No questions.
Elissa, did she come back?
I agree with, I'm only on voice with Ron. I think that either we have to do it or we don't, Sandy. And
Oh,
we
yes.
sort of made a decision last week, and we can't be you have to be consistent.
Correct. And we had at least 3 people go out there to look at this site, and it was not easily visible as to where these additions would go. I agree. Mary, any questions?
Question.
Mike?
Same things everybody else said. The only stakes I saw were either for the, it looked like for the lot lines or perhaps where the floodplain rather begins. But other than that, I'm up with everybody else. Thank you.
Thank you. Kwame?
I agree with Ron and Alyssa and Mike about the staking.
Okay, is there anybody on the line that would like to speak to or from the, or for this project? I did see Virginia.
Yes. We actually made with paint, instead of stakes, we drew where the addition and the deck would go. And we had that, and Brian from GAF saw that today. And it was done out on where we wanted to put the addition and the deck.
Well, I don't
We,
think anybody,
sorry, excuse me. We've asked our engineers to stake it out 1 week before this meeting, which gives all the commissioners a chance to go out there when they can to visit the site and see what the layout is. Painting it today didn't help all of us that went out prior to today.
Yes, and I understand that. I was totally unaware that we had to do that, or I would have done it. I guess we will just have to go out and take some stakes and put it on there then.
and you know what's helpful is if you label the stake what it is. This is for the porch, this is for the addition, not just having stakes there. The stakes with a label is helpful.
All right, so anybody else wants to speak for or against this project? If not, I will take a motion to continue until February 3rd.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second to continue into February 3rd. Ron,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Alyssa,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Sandy, yes. Okay,
Next, notice of public hearing. Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protected Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held on Wednesday, January 20th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. on the notice of intent for Pelletier Realty Trust, care of GAF Engineering, Inc., 266 Main Street, Wareham, Massachusetts, 02571. To construct an indoor in-ground pool, patio, and garage located on Assessors Map 4, Lot 29, 8 Rollins Way, Wareham, Mass.
thank you. Who is here for this project?
Brian Grady,
How do I
GAF
get out of
Engineering.
here?
Okay. Brian. Virginia, can you mute yourself, please? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So Brian, okay, Mr. Bichette, your turn. All right. Somebody with the music, please mute yourself.
Hello.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Bichette. I'm sorry, somebody's on the phone.
Yeah, I just muted him. So
Thank you. Okay, Dave, your turn.
I'm not any better, but at least I know I'm muted.
Whoa. Okay.
okay, so this project site is at 8 Rollins Way, and the project involves the construction of an addition, or I should say of a garage, and the installation of an in-ground pool in the buffer zone to a coastal bank, coastal dune, and within a flood zone, which is zone AE elevation 16. Previously, there was an order of conditions that was issued to reconstruct a house on this site. So there was a house here that had been torn down with the intention of building a new house on it. But the applicant has decided instead to build a garage on the site. So a 25 by 31 foot garage is proposed, approximately 24 feet from the top of the coastal bank. And also an in-ground pool is proposed, which is 20 by 40 in size with a surrounding paver patio. So the patio is quite extensive, as you can see. And so I would just ask if that can be done with some sort of permeable paver. The paver patio and in-ground pool are outside the 30-foot no activity zone. The proposed features at this site also were not staked out. We did get a DEP file number for the project as well. And I also do have, if anybody's interested in seeing it, the previous plan that was approved by the commission for this site. So the work is largely within the same area that we had previously approved, the construction of a new house and pool on the previous plan.
Now, Dave, I found stakes for the pool. Did you see any when you were out there?
I saw a whole bunch of stakes, Sandy, all around, along the edge, but I don't,
I saw the word pool on 4 of them.
Yeah, that might have been done after I went out. I did actually go out pretty early in the game on this one, so maybe they had staked it out in plenty of time, but I was out there one day looking at something else, and I had seen the application had just been submitted, so I took a look at it. So if you had seen the stakes and everything's good, then I would recommend that we can approve the project with some conditions, which would include trying to make the patio some sort of a pervious paver material and providing some sort of a downspout for the garage.
Okay, did you notice the garage was inside the 30-foot?
Yeah.
I did notice that, but again, previously there was a house and other features there before,
Okay.
beforehand. So
it's already been disturbed land.
yeah, so as I said, I could show you that previous plan if anybody's interested.
Okay, so you
have
want,
it with you now?
Yes.
so you want to do the pervious?
Let's see it.
Let me pull that up so everybody can see that real quick, and then we'll continue on.
I said, I drove up, I've been to this place before and it wasn't that long ago.
So if you look at this plan that's in front of us, the plan on the left is what had existed there previous. Okay, so this whole thing was driveway. This is where the garage is being proposed right now, the new garage. So this was all driveway, and this was the old house that was there. So this whole site pretty much was fairly well disturbed already. And what we had approved was this new house right here, driveway and so forth, with a pool right in this area. So this was an approved order of conditions, but as I said, they decided to shift gears and do a completely different project. But as you can see from this plan on the left, this was the extent of the disturbed area.
Yeah.
And so I can go back to the, let me see.
Current plan.
So that's the current proposal, showing where the features are. And if you notice this stairway right here, this is something that is still there. So you see this on the proposed plan, and on the old plan, this is the same stairway right here.
So let me see what this one is.
So you can kind of see this was already here, and this is where the new garage is being proposed right here.
Click on this, then they can see my face and I can talk.
Angela's pad need to mute themselves. We're hearing your conversations.
So to Sandy's point, inside that 30-foot buffer zone is already disturbed, so it's not it's not on touched areas, so it doesn't matter at that point.
Right, yeah, because they already had features in terms of the garage, the driveway and the house already within the 30-foot beforehand. And so now they're shifting to this plan, which actually has pulled some of the work outside of what used to be disturbed to some degree. So
is okay. No, that okay.
What's in the middle, David? Is this all grass inside here?
you mean all
where-
this?
What is this area?
Existing lawn is what it says.
You can come up.
Well, there's no lawn there now.
Well, there is some green on
Well,
the
it's been,
edges.
yeah, it's kind of torn up. Yeah,
If
it's
you
kind of
walk
torn
through-
up.
Yeah, if you
I
walk
mean-
through the mud. It's
So
sort of,
they're
oh,
going
sorry.
to reseed and so on and so forth?
Yes.
Dave,
Okay.
can we ask for new hay bales? What's in there now is pretty bad.
Really? They
No,
look like they
no,
take
we would
control.
definitely need to have that all redone for sure. Yep.
So bad. He's gonna read this thing over and over and over and over and over.
All right, whoever says we're going over and over and over, are we missing something? Or mute yourself, please. Okay, is there anybody on the line that would like to, oh, I haven't asked, did I ask everybody? Ron, I asked you. Carol,
Yeah, no questions.
No questions.
Elissa,
No.
Mary,
No.
Mike.
I just got one question. What would be, how would the water be, the water for the in-ground pool, how would that be handled during, say,
Oh,
this time of year?
Good question, water in pool.
What about saltwater pool being needed?
No,
This is proposed to be a UV ozone treatment system.
Can you explain that a little bit,
Yeah.
Brian?
Well, it still requires chlorine, but a significantly less amount of chlorine, UV being ultraviolet disinfection, and ozone, which is just oxygen treatment. I'm not sure how it works, but it's much more effective at disinfection than chlorine. So the requirement for chlorine is reduced by 70, 80%, something along those lines.
and that we want the water pumped out. It's not to be drained into the area.
Yeah,
I
there would
get
be
that?
very little water removed to winterize it. You don't pump it dry for the winter, maybe take out 8 or 10 inches of the water to winterize it.
But somewhere down the line, if they have to drain the pool.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, if it ever needed to be fully replaced, which maybe could be 5 years before that needs to happen, that
Okay.
would be pumped out. Yes, definitely.
And so that was your question, Mike. Anything else, Mike?
Oh, that's all. Thank you.
Kwame?
No questions. Thank you.
So along with the new hay bales and silk fence, we want
Pervious,
to, we want to talk about having if water to be removed is to be pumped out and removed from the site. Is there anything else we want to, we want
pervious
pervious
paving.
pavers. Brian, is that possible?
Well, we show pavers on a sand bed on the detail. So yeah, that's certainly no problem.
Okay. Is there anybody that would like to speak for or against this project on the call? Hearing none,
Move to close the hearing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Ron,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Elissa,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Sandy. The hearing's closed.
Move to accept the project with pervious pavers,
Sorry, excuse me, standard order of conditions.
with standard order of conditions, and then
And then,
pervious pavers, new silk fence and hay bales as needed for construction, And what was the other? Oh, the pool will be an oxygen ozone pool, the type which Brian described.
UV and ozone.
And to be pumped
And-
out if it needed to be emptied, pumped off site.
Would that pumping go if they're taking like, I mean, how many gallons? 10 inches? Does the piping have to be whenever they're taking out water, or only if they're going to just drain it out?
Just, I mean, any water being taken out needs to be off site. Because 10 inches of water in a pool that size is going to be a little bit of water.
Yeah. I just
All
want
right.
it to be clear.
Yes.
That is the motion.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor, Ron,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Alyssa,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Sandy, yes. So Brian, get with Mr. Bichette before you start the work. Okay,
No.
I'll be in touch. Thanks very much.
thank
Thank
you.
you. Sandy, before you start the next one, maybe just reiterate about the continuances, because I think some people have joined in since we started who may be waiting for some of these.
We will be dealing, we've been asked to continuing the following projects. The Tom Parento at 10 over Jordan, the Pembrose Properties, which is 4 Littleton Drive, and the Borrego Solar Project at 140 Tyhonet Road have been asked to be continued. We will continue them to date specific when we reach them in the agenda. Thank you.
Notice of
please.
public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protected Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held on Wednesday, January 20th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. on the notice of intent for Samuel O'Mello, care of Sharon Associates, Inc., 323 Neck Road, Rochester, Mass. 02770, to construct an addition and upgrade a septic system located on Assessor's Map 76, Lot F10, 9 Farrell Court, Wareham, Massachusetts.
Thank you. Is there anybody here representing this project?
There was somebody on the line.
Well, I was there today and there was absolutely nothing marked. Nothing.
No, I agree.
And is, sorry, is there anybody here for this project? I guess, Dave, will you read the project, please?
Sure. The site is at 9 Farrell Court, and the project involves upgrading a septic system and the construction of an addition in the buffer zone to Blackmore Pond. An existing system is being upgraded and expanded with a new Title V nitrogen reducing septic system. I did have a question as to whether or not you could expand or increase the size of a system at this site, since it technically doesn't meet the setback that's needed. So I'd like to find out. I didn't get a chance to get an answer from the Board of Health on that. I was hoping maybe the engineer had a response, but we don't have that person on at the moment. Also proposed is a second floor addition to the existing structure and an addition over an existing deck. So, you know, this house is being enlarged a fair amount. Hay bales and silt fence would be installed between the work and the pond. There's really no grade changes proposed at the site. We did get a DEP file number. The site really wasn't staked out, as has been mentioned. And as I said, I did want to get an answer on the septic system expansion and whether or not that's going to be allowed.
Okay. I can ask if there's any questions, but I'm going to ask, let's just go right to motion to continue.
The engineer is coming back on right now.
Yeah.
What is forget-me-not? That's it. I ran 400, please. This major metropolitan marathon begins and ends in Grant Park. Hannah. Is the New York City Marathon? No.
Who's Pam's iPad?
The finish line
I
for
got
the
it.
Boston Marathon is between this one.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So is there anybody online to represent this project?
It's saying he's still joining. I don't know if he's having a connection problem or what, but it's saying he's trying to be added to the system, but it's not letting him totally in yet.
Okay. But I was disappointed that it wasn't staked. So Dave, tell me again, what's your question about the septic system? Do you think it's not big enough?
Well, no, this was an existing 2-bedroom house and they're making it into basically a 4-bedroom house. And in areas where you don't have the proper setback to the wetlands, you typically aren't allowed to make that expansion. You have to maintain it as the same size house, so you don't have to make a bigger system with more effluent. So that's what I wanted to get an answer from the Board of Health, if they were going to approve this or not.
Did they meet today or yesterday?
I don't know whether they did or not today.
Okay.
So are we're going to continue this anyway? Because Dave's questions?
Well, we will
Well,
continue
that-
it because it wasn't
No.
staked out,
Wasn't staked.
but we're
So, I
going
mean,
to
it's
try
gonna-
to give we're going to try to give the engineer a chance to come online and answer some of the questions, but it will be continued.
Do you want to go along to the next one and then come back?
I'll take a motion to table.
So
Motion to
moved.
table.
In favor, Ron, Carol,
Yes.
Alyssa,
Yeah.
Mary, Sandy. It's tabled.
Notice
Next,
of public
please.
hearing. Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held on Wednesday, January 20th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. on the notice of intent for Janice Ellis, care of Zenith Consulting Engineers, Inc., 3 Main Street, Lakeville, Mass. 02347, to upgrade a septic system located on Assessor's Map 83, Lot 16, 16 Diners Way, Wareham, Mass.
Is there anybody here for this project?
Will Connolly, Zenith Consulting Engineers.
What was the first name again?
Will.
Will? Thank you. Okay, Will, Mr. Burchett will read to the project. But I'll tell you, Will, it wasn't staked, so I was not happy to visit the site.
Okay, the project site is at 16 Dinah's Way, and the project involves upgrading a septic system in the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland. An existing system is to be replaced with a new Title V nitrogen-reducing septic system, approximately 74 feet from the edge of the wetland. The new system is being placed between the road and the dwelling at the furthest location from the wetland. There would be some minor grading needed as seen on the plan for the new leach field, and a 40 mil plastic liner around the leach field is also proposed. We did get a DEP file number for the project, and as Sandy mentioned, the site had not apparently been staked out.
Will, anything to add?
No, I think you wrapped it up pretty well. I just like to add that we weren't aware that it had to be staked out. Would you like to see the leaching field staked out or the proposed erosion control?
We always asked to see the limit of the septic system that will be of the land that will be disturbed.
Okay.
We can see the erosion control on the particular map, but it was hard. If I looked at it, it was hard to say, well, where in the world are they going to dig this thing up? Are they going to remove all the trees that are the trees on both ends?
Yeah. I apologize for that. We weren't aware of that, that was required.
Will the trees have to come down?
The trees, the ones in the middle of the yard will. There's a tree line on the left, which none of those trees should have to come down, but there will be a few trees in the middle. And then there's some shrubs along that retaining wall that will probably have to come out.
The tree, if you face the house, the big tree on the left, will that have to come down?
Yeah, on the left side of the house.
Oh, yeah, I can see them in the plans. They have to come, all of them have to come out.
Yeah, you can see them. They're kind of hard to see, but yeah, those will definitely come out.
When do you think they might be staked so we could look?
I mean, we can stake it out as soon as possible.
Okay. All right. Any questions from the board, Ron?
No, just the lack of presence of stakes made it difficult to be able to get a visual of exactly what was going to happen.
Thank you. Carol? Elissa?
No.
Mary?
No.
Mike?
I'd just like to see the stakes. That's just.
Excuse me, I haven't been heard yet.
Well,
we'll get there.
We're getting there. We're getting there. Are you here to talk about 16 Diners Way?
No.
Okay, then you hang on, because that's what we're hearing about right now.
Okay.
Okay, Kwame?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, so I will look for a motion to continue until February 3rd until the property is staked.
Motion to continue.
I have a motion to continue.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor, Ron?
Yes.
Carol? Alyssa?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes. You just take them
Sandy?
over. It's okay.
We're continued until February 3rd. Do we have the engineer back for 9 Farrell Court?
He was just on and then he just dropped off.
Okay, he's been tabled, so let's go to our
Oh,
continued hearing.
wait a minute. He is here now.
Hello.
I'll need a motion. Sorry, I'll need a motion to untable.
Motion to untable.
I've got a terrible connection, Mr. Bichette.
I need a
dropping in
second.
and out here.
Second.
All in favor, Ron?
Yes.
Carol? Elissa?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Sandy? It's untabled. Now, who's here for the project? It's got a bad
To
connection.
Rick Sharon from Sharon Associates. Terrible connection. I don't know how long I'll be on here.
Okay.
We also didn't stake. I guess that's the story tonight. So if we
Yeah.
need a continuance, then
Yes,
and that
we'll be
we'll stake out
continuing.
the septic field and the proposed addition. Okay.
Yeah, the other question that came up was, have you been before the Board of Health and are they going to allow you to expand the house from a 2-bedroom to a 4-bedroom, even though you're within a certain distance of the wetlands?
Yes, I spoke with Patrick at Board of Health actually yesterday. The only they were waiting for was an extra charge, a fee that's been taken care of. So I believe it's going to be, by the time we meet again, I'll have an acceptance from them. You notice it does have the secondary treatment unit. I believe that's part of the approval here is the secondary treatment.
Okay, so this, when is this scheduled to go before the Board of Health, do you know?
There are no variances required on this. So basically it's not going to have a hearing that I'm aware of.
Okay, well, I'll check in with them then to see how they're handling it.
Yeah, Dave, go see Patrick and ask him.
Yeah.
Okay, so unless there's any questions from the board, I'm going to ask that we take a motion to continue until February 3rd.
Motion to continue?
Second.
I have a motion and a second in favor. Ron,
Yes.
Carol, Alyssa,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Sandy, we're continued until February 3rd for staking of the site. And Mr. Bichette will speak to Patrick at the Board of Health.
I haven't been heard yet.
Well, we're not there yet. We have a continued hearings. We have a continued hearing for Tom Parento. And when did they want that continued to, Dave?
They want to continue that to February 17th.
Okay. I need a motion. Is
Motion
sorry,
to
is there
continue.
anybody here? Is there anybody here for the Tom Parento project? Okay, I'll take the motion now for the 17th.
Motion to continue to February 17th.
Second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Ron,
Yes.
Carol, Alyssa,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Sandy, it's continued until the 17th. The next continued hearing is Penrose Property, 4 Littleton Drive. They wanted it continued?
Yes, to February 3rd.
Okay, is there anybody here for this particular project? I'm hearing none.
Motion to continue to February 3rd.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second in favor. Ron,
Yes.
Carol, Alyssa, I
Yes.
think we lost Carol. Mary,
Yes.
Sandy, yes, we're continued until February 3rd. Okay, the next continued. Drop my paperwork. We have the Borrego Solar System at 140 Tyhonet Road. They requested continuance until,
February 3rd.
anybody here for this particular project? Hearing none.
Motion to continue to February 3rd.
Second.
I have a motion and a second in favor. Ron,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Elissa,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Sandy. Yes, it continued. All right, enforcement orders. Mr. Bichette.
Yeah, so the first one we have is for work that's taken place at 34 Point Pleasant Circle, and the owner is on the line with us. Just pulling up some photos here. So if the owner could just identify himself for the record.
Margaret? Do you hear me?
Yes, you're quiet, but we can hear you.
That any better?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Dave?
Yeah, so what's happened is this wall and backfill has been placed on this site, which is at 34 Point Pleasant Circle, which is on White Island Pond, with no permitting from the commission. So an enforcement order was issued to the owner to have him come to speak to the commission about this. This is something that would not, in my opinion, have been approved by the commission if it were proposed to us in this manner. And so my recommendation is that this would have to be removed. And so Mr. Vaggart is here to discuss this issue with the commission tonight as requested.
Okay. Scott, your turn.
Well, basically, no, we didn't go the right path. We just kind of jumped on it due to the fact that the water was low. Was more of a safety issue of the rocks that were there. They were just loose, jagged. We've had people fall on them, trip over them. And it's just been, a constant like nervous wreck of somebody getting wrecked on these things. That's really the main reason we put those up, is just to make it safe. No, we didn't go through the right process of doing this.
How much fill did you add in there?
There was probably crushed stone, about 8 yards of crushed stone and 10 yards of sand.
And how far into the pond did you extend past those rocks that you were concerned about?
Probably 2 inches.
Dave, do you have I can see some rocks in that picture.
Yeah, so what you had basically was sort of a conglomeration of rocks that were maybe 5 to 7 feet in width. So with one end being in the water and the other sort of extending onto the land or thereabouts. And what they did was basically put the front edge of this new wall sort of at the front of all that, and then buried it over and filled it up, so that's more or less why you see this as it is. So they did go out a little bit in front of the rocks, maybe not a lot, but again, that was more of a sloping feature and not flat as it currently is now.
Dave, so you mentioned that if the project had come before us, you probably would have recommended it for non-approval. Why is that? Just so I can have an understanding.
Well, basically because you're filling out into the pond to some degree and then placing fill within the 30-foot no activity zone. So again, I would say that if this had come in front of us, we wouldn't typically allow people to build walls out like this and backfill behind them, because you're, basically allowing them to fill in a portion of the pond to some degree.
Yeah. Now when the pond, if the pond level rises, how high up that wall would the pond come?
I wouldn't say it would go, much more than what it is, most likely, maybe a little bit, but it wouldn't really go right up to the top of the wall.
Because I mean, I look at that wall, with the one of the things that was brought up was a safety issue with the rocks. I mean, I see a safety issue with the wall because there is no real true way to step down off that wall into the pond if you so chose to do that. So I would see a safety issue with that in itself also.
Now, Scott, is there any type of footing underneath those planks, or will that sand eventually wash out underneath them?
No, those are actually dug down probably about 2 feet into the sand.
Into the pond?
And yeah. And the poles are driven in probably 4 feet into the ground.
So it's not just sitting on top of the pond. We actually had to dig into the pond to make this wall happen.
Yes.
Any other comments? Carol?
No.
Sorry, Alyssa?
I don't know. I guess I just sort of think, what if everybody wanted to do this? Because probably they all have those rough rocks and so on. Will this wash out in that alleyway that's between the two protrusions? Will the sand wash out there? Or is that, I mean, it's obviously not a walkway for kids because it still has those rocks right there that you can see.
Yeah, we were planning on putting in some kind of a stairway to step down into it, so it wouldn't be just rock.
Mary?
Yep.
Any questions?
No.
Mike?
I think I'm fine for now. Alyssa just pretty much addressed the one question I had about the rocks being in the middle of those two walls that we could see in them, those two small walls rather we could see in the middle, but I think I'm good for the moment. Thanks.
Okay, Kwame?
No questions.
Okay, the recommendation of the agent is to have the crushed stone, sand, and wood boards removed from the site. Scott, would you like to address that? Anything, any comment?
Doesn't sound like a pleasantry, that's for sure. I'm not looking to butt heads. It's not, we're not gonna be able to get any machinery, so it's all gonna have to be pulled out of there by hand. It's all put in.
Now, David, is it something that could come before us with a, for a hearing?
No,
Or
well,
you don't think it would have been permitted to begin with?
no, that's what he said.
No, because again, you know, you can kind of see like at this backside here where the edge sort of was. In any place like this, we just wouldn't permit, because you're filling in the pond basically to some degree. And that's just not something that is permissible under the wetland regs.
And I understand there is a fairly steep walkway down to this filled in area. So removing it will not be easy.
Not only that,
No,
but what will be
that's
there
true. The other thing too is this area technically is not the property of this applicant or this owner. His land ends sort of back towards the house, and then this piece of little land here technically is owned by the Wareham Lake Shores Association.
Is there anybody on this call that will speak for them?
You know, I don't believe there is tonight. I did speak to somebody from the association. They, I think, went and spoke to Mr. Vaggart about the issue, and so I know there's been some contact there, but you know, that's just sort of an aside. In terms of the wetlands permitting part of it, like I said, I just don't see how this meets the standards of the wetlands regulations.
So I got a question. So we're talking about the unease of getting it up and out, but how did we get it in the first place?
Well, I think a lot of it, since it was going downhill, they just poured it down with a chute. If yeah, I'll let the applicant or the owner speak to that, but when I was there one day, there was a chute in place to shoot the stuff down the hill.
Dave, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Alyssa, you had a question?
I do. What should the, when this whole projection comes out, what is going to be left? What is this person supposed to do with this area once take the sand out, the rocks out, and the wooden structure? What then, David?
So prior to any of this being done, there was this area from where I'm showing the cursor back this way that existed, that was already there. So they did have a certain amount of flat space already here. Basically, the rock line came sort of in this vicinity, and this chunk, if you will, is what they added. So there was definitely a beach area here that existed with a sloped stone section that went to the pond. And at one point, and again, I don't know what things have been like over the last couple of years, but at one point they had a dock that started from this beach area, went over the rocks and got you to the water. So, they did have some means of getting over the rocks previously.
But this is not their property.
Technically it is not, no.
So it's a twofold issue.
Threefold, fourfold.
So, Scott, did you fill back back to the hill beyond the fire pit, or all of it?
No, just roughly right from where that little wall starts out, because that's roughly about where the rocks really kind of start. They go out
Okay.
like I said, it was only about 2 inches in front of where the rocks stopped.
Okay, so where Dave's cursor is that area that had been filled in over the rocks, correct?
Yes.
So that is the area that has to be removed. That is the agent's recommendation, and I'll ask the board to vote on that if there's no other comments.
Is there any recommendations on what we can do? I mean, obviously we need to remove that. Sorry about that. Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there was a walkway at one time Dave mentioned. What happened to that?
That had rotted away, so we actually removed it.
And this dock over here, where would that normally be placed?
That kind of goes at the end of that wall where it,
Like right here?
correct.
Is that shed on your property?
That is just basically a tent. It's
A
not really.
tent?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not any.
What's the wheels attached to?
The
Is that a
end of the,
rolling piece of dock?
yes.
So you do have a method of getting into the water.
Yes. It wasn't necessarily a method of getting in or out. It was more on just people climbing on the rocks. We've got, grandchildren that come down. Like I said, it was more of a safety aspect of people falling on the rocks, not necessarily in and out of the water.
Okay.
So I think just to go back to Mr. Vagert's question of what can they do if that is removed, I would say there are some alternatives. There could be, as I said, a walkway constructed over the rocks, or there could be a proposal to even remove the rocks and replace it with some other way of stabilizing a soft slope. But that all would have to be something that would be addressed through an engineered site plan versus, just somebody doing whatever out there. It would have to be designed so that that slope was stabilized in some form. So typically that's when you have to have an engineer involved when you're doing one of these waterfront projects, so that those issues are addressed for the long-term stability of whatever is going to be placed there.
Okay.
So I'm hearing, Dave, are you recommending a notice of intent?
Well, I mean, I think that's up to the commission. The commission could handle this through the enforcement order and say, you just want this to be removed and brought back to what it was before. If the owner wishes to do that and then some other sorts of activities that might be more beneficial to what they would want it to be, then yes, we would have to have a notice of intent for that.
But that wouldn't necessarily be through the folks that we're speaking through tonight, because it's not their property, right? That would have to go through the association.
The people we're speaking to tonight could still submit the application as long as they had the approval from the association.
Okay.
So, it does not have to be the association that submits an application, but obviously they would have to get something in writing from the associations where the association says they're okay with what the applicant wishes to do.
So basically, David, it sounds like or Sandy, it sounds like we're waiting to say that he would try to put back the beach the way it was prior to his addition, and that that a notice of intent would be submitted in order to improve the lot for him.
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, that's it. where we will be looking for the approval to enforce the enforcement order to remove what was placed down there without approval, the sand, the crushed stone, and the wood planks, to return it to what it was. Then if the owner wanted access, safer access into the water, they can come before us with a notice of intent with an engineering plan for a solution.
And we, let's see, what does that one, and we need to decide how many months he has to get this done. I mean, we're right into winter. You never know what's going to happen next. So to get this done, should he have until June 1st?
Yeah, it's definitely not something that's going to be tackled in a couple of weekends, that's for sure. So I would say definitely give an adequate time frame for this to be accomplished.
Well, Scott, do you have a time frame?
The longer the better.
Don't we wish it could be
Oh, yeah. I
that
know.
easy?
6 months with,
I think, June 1st, July 1st at the very latest. I mean, we should get into some decent weather, hopefully, earlier than later this year. We've been kind of lucky so far. So I would think no later than July 1st as a date to get this remedied.
Okay.
all right. So we're looking at return the waterfront to what it was by July 1st, removing the crushed stone, the sand, and the planks. And if desired, submit a notice of intent without a time frame for a method to access the water safely. Is that it?
That sounds about right.
Yes,
Do
and
we
that
have
should be,
anything to say whether this would be done by machinery or by hand? How are you recommending, Sandy, that it be done?
I don't think you can get down there from a machine because it's down a
Yeah.
set of stairs.
Okay.
I mean, the only thing that you could potentially get down there would be some type of like a little dingo that you could get down with a ramp, but I don't think you'd be able to get anything else down there.
God, how steep is the banking down to the water?
It's steep. It's probably a good, believe it or not, 3 stories down.
Oh,
Well, I guess a shovel and a couple of buckets.
Yep, that's about it.
Yeah, you can't really tell the steepness from the pictures that we're looking at. So yeah, that is quite a ways.
Yeah, it's not going to be fun.
all right. So who wants to make I guess we
make a
have
motion?
No, wait, Dave,
Oh.
we have to support the enforcement order.
yes.
Okay,
All right, so a motion to support the enforcement order.
yes. Is that the wording it correctly, Dave?
You would say you would make a motion to ratify the enforcement order and then include whatever timeframes you would want to see the work accomplished by and whatever other actions you would want to include with the enforcement order.
Okay,
So I would, I would probably say that I think the other things that you would be referring to, Dave, would be some sort of a fine. Is that what you were saying in addition to the work being rectified?
I mean, typically that's what the commission has been doing with these enforcement cases. So that again is up to the commission.
I mean, my personal opinion is I think I think the amount of work that has to be done to remedy it could potentially be enough punishment for the doing the work outside of getting permission. So that's just I'm just one of the decision makers. So that would be my opinion on it, is that there's enough punishment with the removal of all this work uphill as much as it is. But like I said, that's just my recommendation. I don't know what anybody else feels on that.
All right, then any other comments on
Well, you
waiving
know what?
the
We-
$300 fee? Sorry, any comments on waiving the $300 fee?
How about making it smaller, $25? It's that we're still having a fee to be consistent right down the line. I mean, because we had that big wall taken down in Onset and we charged him something.
I don't disagree with you 100. I don't disagree at all. I mean, that's like I said, my opinion was one of the group, and I could support having a nominal fee just because we want to be consistent.
Any
Well,
other comments on the? Yes,
Sandy,
Dave.
I would just mention, Sandy, the policy that was established
Oh, you're right.
by yourself and the board. So that's all I would refer to, so that again, things are sort of consistent in terms of what the board does.
So it's a $200 fee for any work requiring conservation approval in flood zone or 100 foot from edge of wetland, plus filing for request for determination or applicability or notice of intent. Let's see, $300, and that includes a full restoration. So I think that's the $300 fine. Any work requiring Conservation Commission approval in flood zone or 100 feet from edge of wetlands or 200 from a riverbank that would not have been permitted, plus a full restoration, is a $300 fine.
Well, all right, it's there in black and white.
Okay.
So then I would make a motion to ratify the enforcement order with the $300 fine and full restoration to its prior condition by a date no later than July 1st. And if past the date of July 1st, there would be a daily fine that would be imposed until the work was completed.
That's the motion.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor, Ron,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Alyssa,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Sandy, yes. Thank you. Next enforcement order.
I think, is this the gentleman that's been waiting to speak?
I don't know.
Yeah, so this next site is at 11 Gichagumi Road. And I'm just going to pull up some photos on this particular one as well.
So James, I think we're finally getting to what you want to talk about.
Yes.
Okay, give Mr. Bichette a chance to bring up some pictures. And
Okay.
he'll talk about the enforcement order.
All right.
Okay, so this project site is at 11 Gichagumi Road. And this is in the Indian Mound Beach area. And what's been done here is that this block retaining wall has been put in place at the top of the coastal bank here with no review or approval from the Conservation Commission. And then there was a certain amount of fill placed behind one corner to sort of level it off. As you can see in this picture, there was already some materials on the coastal bank, so they didn't really fill over the coastal bank down into the marsh. This is the slope that's been here for many years. But as you can see, this dirt is from the excavation to put this wall in. And so then it was built up a few courses above ground level. And the deck that's in the back is the next property over. It's not this particular site, and that deck had actually been there for quite some time. But this is what we're looking at right here. So again, this is sort of the natural ground level. These old pipes have been in there for many years. And some of this material is freshly moved for the installation of this retaining wall here. Also in the corner, there's this outfall pipe that's been put in because behind the wall, they put in some crushed stone with a perforated pipe for drainage and then created this outfall to dump down over the coastal bank, which certainly is not something that should have been done. So that's essentially what we're looking at here. Again, there was no application submitted for this. And so I met with the property owner at the site. Mr. LaValle, who is on the line, is the contractor. He's not the property owner, but he was the one that was doing the actual work here.
Okay.
So, Dave, is this a project that if it had been brought before us, we could have potentially given approval for, or is this something that, based on its relation to the wetlands, would it not have been something to approve based on distance to the wetland, or what?
I would say not so much in distance to the wetlands. I think it's in terms of how it was done that we wouldn't have approved. I think we would have potentially approved some manner to stabilize the banking. And it might have even included some form of hard structure, but in the form that it's in, where it's really not designed by an engineer, certainly the outfall pipe, things like that, we would not have approved if this had come in front of us in this way. So again, you're on a coastal bank in an area that is subject to coastal storm events. And so we don't have any sense of the stability of this. It may be perfectly fine, but we don't have an engineer involved to give us that assurance.
So erosion could happen, which could cause that wall to collapse.
Potentially, yes. So.
Okay.
Or just plain erosion from the land side out.
I see right there, or better yet, in a previous photo, there was stairs coming up. Does the owner have plans to maybe expand upon what's being built now? Obviously, maybe like a deck going out into the, no, here we go. Is there expand?
Trying to get to the one that I thought had there you go.
There you go.
Yeah, there's stairs coming up. Does the owner have any intentions to maybe building a deck out further into towards out, maybe towards further out?
No, there was no indication from the owner to do anything other than to kind of stabilize this slope, which apparently had started to erode. So this is kind of, in one sense, similar to one that we looked at over in Weweanick Shores, where the guy had built up a wall like this at the top of the bank, and he was reconstructing a patio behind it.
Right.
He had no approval, and we made him remove the wall part of it, after we had an engineered plan and so forth. So I think that's where I think we're at here. Is this should have been a project that came in front of us as a notice of intent with an engineered plan. So that to me is the recommendation if the owner wants to do some sort of a project to stabilize this embankment.
Right.
Okay. Who's on the line that wants to speak for this project?
It's
James. Okay.
James, yeah.
James, it's now your turn.
Okay. All right.
Any comment?
I think the wall is not even high enough I have a speech impediment, okay? So, but the wall is only 44 inches. And code is that you have to be at 48 inches in order to build a wall. So I mean, I feel that I did the best I could, and I don't think I did really a lot of harm there at all,
Well, I mean, I don't, it's not so much, James, it's not so much about the building codes and what you're allowed to build as far as height and width and all that stuff. It has more to do with the wetland bylaws that the town has for projects such as this. And that's where the violation comes in. It's not about codes about building, it's about the wetland bylaws. And we've had several projects that have come before us that weren't permitted, whether they were done correctly or not based on building code, doesn't really have a bearing on the decisions that we make as a commission for enforcement orders.
Yeah. Well, this is a wall that is designed to hold earth back. It's stepped back every course like an inch and a half, and I'm not even over 44 inches.
No, I understand that. And I mean, I understand these walls a little bit and understand the step backs for holding earth, but that's not really, like I said, that's not really what we're looking at tonight. We're not looking at the building code. We're looking strictly at the wetland bylaws and how we handle things in town that have to do with protecting the wetlands. So that's strictly what we're discussing tonight, not anything to do with building codes and step backs and whatnot.
Yeah. Well, these people have been living in that house for 30 years, and it's not a high wall at all, and if you, I'm just asking if you could give me and the homeowner some sort of a
Now, Dave, is this something, would this fall strictly just on the contractor doing the work, or would this fall on contractor and homeowner?
Well, on any property, it's the homeowner's ultimately the responsible party. So the homeowner is the one who, has to have the proper permitting in place. Obviously, the commission can and has fined contractors in the past for doing projects with no approvals. So like I said, as you mentioned, Ron, this isn't so much an issue of whether or not the project needed a building permit or not. It may not have needed a building permit based on its height, but any project of this nature that is either on a resource area or within a certain distance requires a notice of intent to be submitted. That's just what's required under the Wetlands Protection Act, under the state law, and under our town bylaw as well. So that's really what this boils down to is we don't have any application that's approved this or any sense that this wall is sufficient based on an engineer's plan.
Now, I mean, obviously we have the gentleman that's building the wall that's doing this work. Have we had a chance to have contact with the homeowners?
I have had contact with the homeowner. I met him there, discussed the whole thing, and he's aware of the fact that this should have been. He's aware now that this should have been something that got review and approval from the commission. Again, in his mind, he didn't see this as a significant activity, but obviously, to me, it is, and it just simply requires that approval.
Well, I mean, it's also, I mean, when you look at it too, it's not just work that's being completely done by hand. I mean, we have obviously a Bobcat type tractor that's out there that's doing some of this work too. So it's not just like we dug a little trench and put some blocks in. Looks some significant earth moving has happened. Is the homeowner in agreement that there was a potential that we could have this wall have to be removed and fines being levied for the work being done?
I'm not. I asked him, and he said, "Oh no, it's not a problem. It's only like a couple of feet high, So he said that and it's all on his property. It's not on the wetlands property. So I just went along with it, but
yeah, so I think getting back to it, it is really ultimately the property owner's responsibility to address. If we issue an enforcement order, which I have done, it's to the property owner. And so he's the one that's ultimately got to get this straightened out, whether he wants to or not. That's just what's going to have to happen,
Okay. So are you asking to take it all down or just a course or two or?
Well, what I would say is if this gentleman, the property owner, wants to try to permit some sort of a structure there, then he would have to go through the proper review process, which means getting an engineered plan. And so at this point, I would say maybe we just leave it until we find out from the property owner and his engineer what might need to be done to accomplish this. And again, I don't think there's certain parts of this that certainly I don't think an engineer would have proposed, and we certainly would not have approved, including the drainage pipe and maybe some of the other elements. So in my opinion, I would say unless the guy wants to take it completely out and restore it, I would say we require a notice of intent and no further work happens until we get a notice of intent.
So if I'm hearing, the construction stops, nothing more is done on the site.
Yeah.
We request a notice of intent.
Yes.
And we expect that notice of intent to be to us in how many weeks, Dave?
Well, I would say we would give them probably
2 months?
a month or so, because again, we don't know how busy engineers are or how quickly they're going to be able to get out and address it. So I would say we give them a solid month to get a notice of intent submitted to us.
And if he does not plan to do a notice of intent, the wall has to be removed and the site restored.
Yes.
Okay, well, I will absolutely do a notice of intent. I would be happy to,
Okay,
That's
so
gonna
that's,
but that's gonna require you getting with an engineer and having them come out and doing a survey of the property, and then obviously, drawing up the plans for the wall, and not just
Yeah,
having you file for a notice. I mean, so there's
Yeah.
there's some cost that's going to be associated with this,
Yeah.
one way or the other.
yeah. These blocks are designed to hold earth back.
Yeah, they do. I know they interlock when you put them together, and I
Yeah.
understand that, but it's still going to need to be done by an engineer.
Okay.
Yeah.
To basically let us know that it's whatever is being done is going to be done in a safe manner.
Okay.
So
Okay,
Yeah,
sure.
and that drainage pipe is a very major concern.
yes, that's not even something that we even began to talk about, but that is obviously not anything that I don't think anybody would have ever thought about even entertaining.
Does anybody else wants to have any questions or comments on this project, on this enforcement? Because I think we're talking about all work stops, nothing is done. The homeowner applies for a notice of intent and a $300 fine. And we give
So-
them what? I'm sorry, 6 weeks?
March 3rd would
Okay.
be
Yeah. All right.
because we have a meeting on the 3rd, the 17th, and then the
Yeah.
3rd would be the third meeting. I think.
Okay.
Dave, what do you think? Is that sufficient amount of time?
I think so, yeah.
Unless you hear that there can't be anybody no engineers available. But
Right.
that could be the target is March 3rd.
Yeah. Okay. I know an engineer. Yeah. I know an engineer.
Okay,
These blocks are designed to hold earth back. So I don't think there's going to be an issue. I stutter. Okay.
yes, we understand. That's all
So
right.
I think we make a motion to ratify the enforcement order with a $300 fine and give them until March 3rd to hire an engineer to come up with a plan for the site. And if an engineer isn't going to make a plan for the site, then we would have to have it brought back to its original state.
Okay. All right. Yep.
Any questions from the commission?
Okay.
No.
I think that was a motion by Ron.
Second.
I have a second. Ron,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Sandy. Oh, yes, Mary,
Yes.
Alyssa, I went out of turn, I'm sorry. So
Oh,
that's
Sandy.
that's your ratification of the enforcement order, and I'm tired, folks. It's moving on. Anything else, Mr.
No.
Bichette, on this?
Not on this, no.
Thank you, James.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye now.
Bye.
We have certifications of compliance.
Yes, we had, this site is at 280 Cremisa Road, and if you recall, we had a request for a certificate of compliance for a pier that was built many years ago. This is at the old Hanley property at the end of Cremisa Point. And at that time, there were some elements that were not consistent with the plan that had been approved.
Oh, yeah, I
we-
extended the sucker.
Yeah, so the applicant then submitted a second notice of intent to have the commission approve the additional length that was put in, which the commission did approve, and also to correct some of the other parts of the violation. So all of those things have now been accomplished, and so the first certificate of compliance is for the original proposal, so I would recommend the issuance of that.
Can we do them together?
Yes, you can.
does that involve me? Or what?
No,
Nope,
this
we're
is
all done
another,
with you,
this is
James.
another site.
Oh,
We're all set.
oh,
You
okay.
be safe. Thank
Okay,
you.
now you too.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you
So-
very much.
Yep.
We
Okay,
can take a motion to accept order the certification of compliances for both of the projects at the same time?
Yes.
what are you talking about that I did a job?
No, we've moved on to a site at 280 Cremisic Road, so we're on to another one.
Is that, yeah, but is that I did that job also?
No.
No.
Oh, okay. All right.
Nope.
Done.
This was done by GAF Engineering.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome, James. Have a good night.
Okay, bye.
Okay. I'm looking for a motion.
A motion to accept, I'm thrown off.
To issue-
A
to
motion
issue-
to issue a certificate of compliance on both projects for 280 Cremisic Road.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, Ron,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Alyssa,
Yes.
Mary, Sandy, yes, done. They're going to be happy about that. Now they can continue to sell that property. Dave, is there anything else?
Yes, I do have a bill that I would like the commission to review and hopefully vote to pay. So I'm going to bring that up. This is for a purchase of lumber to build the deck
Oh.
down at the conservation site at the Westgate property. So let me just get this up here.
If anybody hasn't gone down there, there was an old pump house down at the edge of the river on this Westgate property. And it was planned to have a platform or viewing platform constructed, and Mr. Leggett was going to do it for us before we lost him. So this is the lumber in order to continue with that project.
IT to get the right devices to the right people and help employees stay productive. When your IT is at their best, so are your people.
Somebody's got some music going on in the background. If you could mute yourself, please.
Yeah, I just did that. Okay. So, so anyway, this,
How much is it?
oh, wait a minute. Let me get
You
back
had it
to right.
up.
Yeah, so it was like 2,000.
Yeah, so it came to a little over $2,100. So I'm requesting that the commission vote to pay this bill.
What is, I can't read, sorry, I can't read the amount. I can see 21, but it's not.
2139.55, Sandy.
Thank you. So I thought I heard a motion to pay $2,139.55 to Morse for the
Yes.
lumber for the deck at Westgate.
Yes.
Okay, there's the motion.
Second.
Second, all in favor, Ron,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Alyssa,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Sandy, approved. We do have the funds, right, Dave?
Yes. Yes, we do have the funds, and this is supposed to be reimbursed through a grant that we got. So we should be getting all the money back anyway.
Great, now who's going to do the work?
Well, we're still putting that together. So we have a little group. I think we'll be able to pull it off. So luckily, it's not a huge job. We're talking about like a 13 by 13 foot deck. So, so yeah, we should have a group enough to get it done.
We could all get together on a weekend and do it.
Yeah, you bring all your 5 kids.
Hey, listen, many hands make light work.
Yeah.
You know, is that it?
That's all I have, I believe. Yeah, that's it.
I have one thing that doesn't have to do with conservation. So,
Okay.
Can you
So-
wait until, sorry, can you wait until we close the hearing? Close the
absolutely.
meeting?
Close.
Adjourn?
Let's close that. Let's close this meeting.
Okay, can a
Second.
motion, I have a motion to adjourn and a second, and all in favor, just say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned. Now, Ron.